The sun bled amber over Sedona's red cliffs, casting jagged shadows across the desert valley. From the attic suite of the enchantment resort, I stood before a floor-to-ceiling window, my reflection shimmering in the glass. My wedding dress, a cascade of Italian lace hand-stitched with thousands of tiny crystals, clung to me like a second skin. Its 12-foot train pooling on the hardwood floor like liquid starlight. The air smelled of sage and cedar, carried on a dry breeze that rustled the white roses climbing a steel arch outside, where our ceremony platform teetered on the edge of a cliff. Below, the roaring Fork Valley stretched endless, its red rock spires glowing like embers under a September sky. This was it, the day I'd spent a year planning, every detail a piece of my heart. But as I adjusted my veil, a hollow ache pulsed in my chest. My family, Mom, Dad, my sister Ava, my brother Lucas, my cousins, had all refused to come. They called my wedding too small, not worth the trip from Chicago to Arizona. Their absence wasn't just a missing presence, it was a rejection of everything I'd poured into this moment. I'm Lily, 29. And today was the day I'd marry Ethan, 32. The man who'd been my anchor through every storm. We'd chosen an intimate wedding in Sedona, 30 guests. A celebration of love, not spectacle, but their texts still burned in my mind. Mom's was the sharpest, sent 3 weeks ago in a cold, clipped tone. Lily, a tiny wedding like that? We're not flying out for something so insignificant. Ava, 26, piled on. Why make it so hard? Arizona's too far for something so low-key. Lucas, 21, and my cousins followed, their excuses piling up like stones on my chest. I'd read those messages a dozen times, each one a fresh wound, until the words blurred into a single truth. My family didn't think I was worth showing up for. I pressed my palms against the cool glass, my breath fogging the window. My mind drifted to a memory from 10 years ago, when I was 19, standing in our Chicago backyard with Ava. We were draped in Mom's old curtains, playing Wedding with plastic tiaras from a dollar store. Ava, barely 16, had giggled as she tossed dandelions like confetti, declaring herself my maid of honor. You'll have the best wedding, Lily, she'd said, her eyes bright with dreams. And I'll be there, front row. Back then, our family felt unbreakable, Mom baking lemon tarts for Sunday dinners, Dad telling stories of his Navy days, Lucas toddling after us, stealing cookies from the table. But somewhere along the way, cracks formed. Mom's expectations hardened. She wanted me to be the daughter who dazzled, who threw lavish parties to impress her book club. Ava grew distant, chasing her influencer dreams, while Lucas buried himself in college life. My choice of a small wedding felt like a betrayal to them, a rejection of their vision of grand. The suite's door creaked open, and Ethan stepped in, his dark hair catching the golden light. His suit was tailored, simple but sharp, a charcoal gray that made his hazel eyes glow. He crossed the room, his steady footsteps a quiet comfort. You okay, love? He asked, his voice soft but laced with worry. I turned, my throat tight, and shook my head. They're not coming, Ethan, not one of them. My voice cracked, and I hated how small it sounded. He didn't ask for details, he didn't need to. He'd seen the texts, heard my late-night sobs. He pulled me into his arms, his chin resting on my head. This day is ours, Lily, not theirs. You built something beautiful because it's what we wanted. That's enough. His words were a lifeline, but they couldn't drown out the ache. I pictured Mom fussing over my veil, Ava helping me into my heels, Dad walking me down the aisle under Sedona's fiery cliffs. Instead, I'd walk alone, carrying their absence like a weight. They think it's not a real wedding, I whispered, tears spilling over, because it's not some ballroom with 200 strangers. Ethan's jaw tightened, but his touch stayed gentle. They're wrong. This is real because it's us. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to be here. We stood there, wrapped in each other, the desert stretching vast outside. My mind flashed to another memory, Christmas 2 years ago, when I'd told Mom about our engagement. We were in her Chicago kitchen, the air thick with cinnamon and cloves. I'd shown her the ring, A simple emerald-cut diamond Ethan had chosen because it matched my eyes. It's perfect, I'd said, beaming. But Mom's smile was thin. You're not doing one of those tiny weddings, are you? She'd asked, stirring her coffee. People will talk, Lily. A small wedding looks cheap. I'd laughed it off, but her words lodged in me like splinters. Now, they festered. My best friend, Mia, 28, burst into the suite, her auburn curls bouncing. Lily, it's time for the final fitting, she said, her voice bright but softening when she saw my face. She crossed the room, her emerald dress swishing, and took my hands. Hey, you're a vision already. Don't let them steal this. Mia had been my rock since college. The one who'd stayed up with me through heartbreak and deadlines. Who'd helped me pick this dress in a Phoenix boutique. She adjusted my veil, her fingers careful, and whispered, "You're not alone today. You've got me, Ethan, and 30 people who love you enough to be here." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. The dress felt heavier now, its crystals catching the light like 1,000 tiny promises. I thought of the past year, every late night spent sketching table settings, tasting menus with a Michelin-starred chef from Phoenix, choosing wildflowers that matched Sedona's palette. I'd sent my family every detail, hand-calligraphed invitations, a QR code for a shuttle service, a detailed itinerary with hotel recommendations. I'd done everything right, but they'd still said no. The ceremony platform gleamed at the cliff's edge, its granite tiles from Portugal shimmering like molten silver in the fading light. White roses wove through a steel arch shaped like a halo, their petals trembling in the breeze. The air was crisp, scented with desert dust and pine. 30 chairs faced the altar, each draped with ivory linen, a sprig of lavender tied to the back. I stood at the start of the aisle, my heart pounding. Mia squeezed my arm. "You're ready," she said, her eyes shimmering with pride. Ethan waited at the altar, his gaze locked on me. The sunset painted his face in gold, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us. The officiant's voice was a soft hum, but all I felt was Ethan's hand, warm and certain. As I reached him, his fingers laced through mine, his thumb brushing my knuckles. "I've got you," he whispered, and I believed him. We exchanged vows as the sky turned violet, the cliffs standing sentinel around us. "Lily, you're my home," he said, his voice breaking. "Every step, every fight, I choose you." My vows spilled out, raw and unpolished. "Ethan, you taught me love isn't loud. It's this, quiet, steady, ours." The reception unfolded in a glass-walled pavilion, its ceiling dripping with Venetian chandeliers that sparkled like a constellation. A single long table, draped in hand-embroidered silk, held 30 seats, each with a handwritten note recalling a moment with us. Laughs shared over cheap wine in college. Quiet mornings in our Chicago apartment. The menu, crafted by the Phoenix chef, was a symphony. Smoked salmon tartare with caviar, duck with blood orange glaze, paired with wines from Ethan's private collection, a hobby he'd nurtured since his days as a broke coder. I held a glass of champagne so rare it felt like a secret, its bubbles catching the candlelight. Mia leaned in, her voice soft. "Any regrets?" I looked out at the valley, where candles flickered in the desert air, their glow dancing on the red rocks. "I don't regret this," I said, my voice steady, "but I regret they didn't think I was worth showing up for." Ethan overheard, his hand finding mine under the table. "They missed out," he said, his eyes fierce. "Not just on this, but on you." At 10 p.m., we moved to the dance floor, hand-cut quartz tiles pulsing with LED lights synced to the music. Ethan and I danced to "First Day of My Life," the song we'd loved back in college, when we were broke and dreaming in a cramped apartment. His arms were warm, his breath steady against my cheek. "This is enough," he whispered. At 2 a.m., he led me to an open field. A soft boom echoed, and fireworks burst in gold and white. Set to an orchestral piece Ethan said felt like my heartbeat. The sky exploded, each spark a defiance of the emptiness my family left. "No one who skipped this can take it from us," he said. I nodded, but the ache lingered, a mother's hand I'd never hold, a sister's laugh I'd never hear. Back in Chicago. 3 weeks later, I sat alone by our apartment window. A cold coffee in hand. The wedding album arrived. And the first photo stopped me. Our kiss under Sedona's blazing sky. My veil catching the light like a halo. It was breathtaking. Like something from a luxury magazine. Ethan walked in, his laptop under his arm. The photographer sent the drafts. He said, a sly grin spreading, time to show them what they missed. I hesitated. Posting photos felt like giving them a piece of our day, a day they'd dismissed. But Ethan's eyes were steady. And I trusted him. Just 3. I said. No captions. I chose 3 images. The ceremony. With roses framing the cliffs, the dinner. Candlelight dancing on silk, the dance floor. Glowing under our first dance. The caption was simple. A month ago. I married my best friend. A small, perfect day. Hashtag intimate wedding. Hashtag no filter. Within an hour, my phone exploded. Friends gushed. Lily, this is unreal. Like a movie. Then came the family. Ava texted. Are you kidding? That was your small wedding? Why didn't you tell us it was this fancy? Lucas. Damn, I would have come if I knew it looked like that. Mom left a voicemail. Her voice sharp. Lily. Call me. Why would you hide something this grand? I played it for Ethan. My hands shaking. He listened. His jaw tight. They're not sorry for hurting you. They're mad they missed the photo op. I didn't reply. Their words stung. Not because they were wrong. But because they were right in the worst way. They didn't regret missing me. They regretted missing the spectacle. I thought of another memory. 5 years ago, when I'd moved to Chicago with Ethan. Mom had thrown a going-away party. But it was more for her friends than for me. She'd paraded me around, boasting about my job offer. But never asked how I felt about the move. Ava had posted photos of the party. Captioning them, Big Sis. Off to conquer the world, but she hadn't called me once after I left. Their love always came with conditions. A performance for others. 2 days later, a soft knock came at our door. It was Sophie, my youngest sister, 19, standing there in a hoodie, holding a box of donuts and 2 iced teas. Her eyes were red, her voice shaky. I didn't call because I was scared you'd say no. She mumbled. I let her in, the room heavy with silence. She set the donuts down and pulled a crumpled wedding invitation from her backpack. I kept this, she said, her voice breaking. I thought it'd be some backyard thing. But those photos, the video Ethan posted, it was so beautiful. Not because it was fancy, but because it was you. I sat across from her, my chest tight. Sophie was different. She'd always been the quiet one. The one who'd slip me notes under my bedroom door when we were kids. Drawings of us as superheroes. But she'd still said no to my wedding. Why didn't you come? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She looked down, tears falling. Mom said you wanted it private. That you didn't need us. I believed her, but I was wrong. Lily, you invited us, and I didn't show up. Her words hit like a wave. I glanced at Ethan, who'd stepped out of the kitchen with 2 glasses of water. He nodded, leaving the decision to me. I exhaled, not because I'd forgiven her, but because her apology felt real. Okay, I said, let's do something. A small gathering, just family, to watch the video, to talk. We chose a Saturday afternoon. No fanfare, just a chance to face the truth. Ethan and I tidied our apartment, setting out a tray of pastries and fruit punch. Sophie arrived early, bringing a jar of wildflowers and a blueberry pie she'd baked. You okay? She asked, her eyes searching mine. I managed a faint smile. You? She nodded. Let's see if they show. They did, one by one. Dad came first, his hug tight, his voice low. I should have been there, kiddo. I let your mom's doubts cloud mine. Ava and Lucas arrived with their partners. Sitting stiffly, Ava avoided my eyes, her phone tucked away for once. Lucas kept glancing at the wedding photo on the wall. A shot of me and Ethan under the rose arch. Mom showed up last, with my cousins, hesitating at the door. Sophie opened it. Come in, she said simply. I didn't greet them, just pointed to the living room. Mom's eyes lingered on the photo. Then the simple spread we'd prepared. Cozy place, she said, her voice tight. Thanks, I replied, then turned to Ethan. Let's play the video. The room fell silent as the footage rolled, my walk down the aisle. Roses framing the cliffs. Ethan's eyes shimmering. The fireworks bursting over Sedona. When it ended, Mom was wiping her eyes. Ava stared at the floor. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. Mom stood, her voice steady. Lily, I thought you were shutting us out. I got your invitation, the itinerary, everything, but I convinced myself it wasn't worth the effort. I was wrong, not because it was grand, but because I didn't believe in you. Her words caught me off guard. Raw and unfiltered, Ava stepped forward, pulling an envelope from her bag. I said awful things, she admitted. I blamed you for my choice. This letter, it's not perfect, but it's honest. Later, I found 2 childhood photos inside, as in plastic tiaras. Playing, wedding, in our backyard. Lucas hugged me, whispering, I want to be there next time. The tension didn't vanish, but it softened. They saw me, not as the daughter who'd failed their expectations, but as a woman who'd built something beautiful. We talked late into the night. Not about the wedding's glamour, but about the years we'd lost to assumptions and pride. Mom admitted she'd pushed me to be her version of perfect. Ava confessed she'd been jealous of my independence. Lucas said he'd stayed silent to avoid conflict. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. 6 months later, Ethan and I planned a dinner to mark our first anniversary. We'd moved to a small house in Boulder, Colorado. A fresh start after Ethan left his tech job to launch a new venture, a platform for rural schools to access digital resources. Funded by the quiet sale of his first startup for millions. We never told my family about the money, it wasn't their business. We strung fairy lights from the trees to the porch, set a table with white linen and lavender sprigs, and ordered from our favorite Italian place. At 6 p.m., they all showed up, Mom, Dad, Ava, Lucas, Sophie, even my cousins. Mom brought a homemade lemon tart, her hands trembling as she set it down. Can I help with the drinks? She asked. I nodded, feeling her unspoken apology. Ava helped Ethan carry dishes, her laugh lighter than I'd heard in years. Lucas chased Sophie's kids around the backyard, their glow sticks trailing like fireflies. After dessert, I tapped my glass. Tonight's not just about our marriage, I said, scanning their faces. It's about showing up. For real. Mom stood, her voice soft. I learned something, Lily. It's not about how big something looks. It's about being there, making the effort. I forgot that, but I won't again. Ava added, your wedding wasn't small. It only felt that way to us because we didn't look deeper. Ethan squeezed my shoulder. I looked around, no fireworks. No crystal chandeliers. Just warm eyes and honest voices. I thought back to Sedona. To the 30 guests who made it feel full. A wedding feels small not because of the guest count, but because of who's missing. Tonight, they were here. Mom hugged Ethan, whispering, thank you for not giving up on us. He smiled. I just did what was best for Lily. Not every wound heals at once. But under those golden lights, with the family slowly turning toward me, I didn't need another wedding. Just a backyard dinner, where love showed up, real and unpretentious, and that was enough.